Do you think this is what Warzone is about? Well, yeah, you're partially right, but maybe all your friends are playing it, or you really think you have potential and you really want to enjoy this game, you just can't grasp your mind around it and you really don't know all the ins and outs. Well, then maybe this video is for you. So we're going to go over the basics, and I'm going to start with what Warzone actually is. So Warzone is a battle royale game, which is a mass multiplayer game, and in this case about 150 players are dropped into the Warzone, which is a fictional place in Russia, and with the new update or the new season, it is set during the Cold War 1984. And the goal of each game is to be the last one standing, or the last survivor of the game out of these 150. There are different game modes such as solo, squads, trios, and some other modes, but we're not going to talk about these right now. We're just going to stick to the basics. Now you may ask yourself, why or how is this game not taking hours if you drop 150 players on this huge map and you may be down to like 10 or so, and let's say 2 of them are hiding in one corner of the map and the other 8 are hiding somewhere else? How is this game ever going to end? Well, this is where the storm comes in. So at the beginning of each game, you have a quite big storm circle, and what you want to do is stay inside of that circle when the time runs up, so you won't be affected by the storm. You have different amount of times. The further into the game, the shorter will be the time that you have where you can get into that circle. Once the time is up, the circle gets smaller and smaller, and if you stay outside of that circle in that red zone, then it'll take your health and you will eventually die. And also the damage of each circle increases dramatically. And I guess this is Activision's way of speeding up the game and making it possible that towards the end game, everybody will meet center or at the center of the last circle or around the last circle, and then you are forced to basically kill each other. So with this season, the game starts off with everybody being in helicopters flying across the map, and the direction of the flight is different each time you spawn into a game. Well, you can decide where you would like to drop. You just look on your map, you figure out where to drop and what's a good spot for you, and then you press the button and jump out, and then you will parachute to the spot that you chose. Now, why is it important where you drop, or where would you like to drop? Well, this kind of depends on your style of play. There are certain areas that are really crowded where everybody likes to drop because you can find a lot of weapons, a lot of money. But if you more like a careful player or sneaky player, you may want to drop into areas where there's not so many other players around, or the possibility that there are other players is really low. To help you figure out where to drop, you can pin the spot that you would like on the map, on the mini map, and then you can look up while you're in the helicopter and look around and see if you would actually enjoy that spot. See, because the map is kind of abstract sometimes, so if you see it in the real map, you may not like that building that you just pinned or whatever, or the contracts. But I will explain the contracts in a different video, just to keep it simple for now if you're an absolute beginner. So after you picked your spot and you dropped and you like it, what do you do next? Well, initially you only start off with a handgun, which is not very powerful. So your goal is to find good loot, better weapons and armor and stuff like that. In order to do that, there are different crates and they make a sound, and you should be able to hear them if you're close to one. And each crate drops a weapon and a lot of times money, and that will help you to get an advantage over your opponents and get better loot for the remainder of the game. There are different types of chests. There are blue ones, or I guess dark gray ones with the blue shimmering shiny thing around them, and then there are orange or gold chests, as many people call them, and the gold ones usually have a lot better loot, more legendary weapons, and also they will drop more money. So once you set up with your loot, you can keep running around checking out different buildings. Like I said earlier, depending on your style of play, maybe you want to camp out somewhere, which is kind of frowned upon, I guess. But especially if you're new to the game, you may want to take it slow and kind of hide out a little bit and move slowly from hideout to hideout and get familiar with the speed of the circles and the controls and different type of loot. Each character or each player can activate different perks that they can set in their menu, and generally if you shoot or if you're being loud, a red dot appears on the minimap on your location and it'll tell other players where you are. Same goes for the other players, so if they are being loud or if they are shooting, you will be able to see them in most cases. Now, there's certain things a player can do to reduce the amount of noise generated, for instance with suppressed guns, and there are other ways of not being as visible, but like I said earlier, this will complicate things too much and this will go into the advanced part 2 video. So let's say you died. What's next? Well, you get a second chance. There's a so-called gulag in which you will be dropped off after you die the first time, and you will get a second chance with a 1v1 and you will have to kill one player in like a small arena type of scenario, and if you win you will be dropped off back into the war zone. Now the disadvantage of this is you will be dropped without any loot that you have gathered prior to dying. You will start off with your pistol again. You can land back to where you died and pick up the loot if the player that killed you didn't already pick it up or, stole it from you. But the risk is very high that the player is still around and may kill you again, and he obviously has better loot and it'll be much easier for him to kill you quickly. So it depends on how willing you are to take that risk and how skillful you are, I guess. But for beginners, I wouldn't recommend landing in the same spot where you died. And yeah guys, that's essentially the basics of the game. Of course there's a lot more to it, but I figured for absolute newbies and people that don't know anything about this game, this should cover everything that you need to know. If you would like me to explain more advanced stuff like the loadouts and leveling weapons and armor and all that kind of stuff, please let me know in the comments. Maybe drop a like if you enjoyed the video and if it helped you. And maybe even think about subscribing so you won't miss the next video where I will explain everything in more detail and, really get into the game. Thank you for watching guys, and I will see you in the next one.